Hey everyone, so if you're watching this, it's because you want to know how I transformed this oversized men's coat to a women's coat. Armhole, make sure that the ends meet at the same level right by the armpit. Once everything looks good, sew around the armhole. and line up the center of the sleeve with the center point of the shoulder. In most cases, this will be known by the shoulder seam. Now work your way around the armhole, pinning the sleeve to the armhole, right sides together. Now this is the part where you sew that 1 inch opening from the side panel closed. Now you face the tricky part, which is sewing the lining together. It's hard because you have to work inside out for as much as you can before sewing the rest by hand using a blind stitch. Start by pinning the lining together at the armhole, turning the lining in so you can pin it right sides together and sew. Take your time with this and make sure that when you sew there is no other piece of material caught underneath. Okay, so my battery died before I could show you how I sewed the side panel of the lining. So I sewed this part by hand because I couldn't sew it inside out with my sewing machine, and I used a blind stitch to make sure that you couldn't see where the stitches were. To add a more feminine touch, I decided to sew a fur collar down using fur I had from another coat. This part is optional. For this, I needed to find 9 small buttons to attach the fur, and I'm adding some buttons to the sleeve for decoration. So line up the fur to the collar and pin where the button loops are. This will indicate where you need to sew the buttons. When sewing the buttons, sew it underneath the natural fold of the collar. This will ensure the buttons are hidden. Once all the buttons are sewn, I attached the fur and started working on the buttons for the sleeves. Lastly, I need to remind you that I would not recommend you try this on a brand new coat if you're new to sewing. Try practicing on a coat that is ready to be thrown away first until you're confident and comfortable. And there you have it, a man's coat transformed into a nice woman's coat. I hope you like it. If you like it, don't forget to like and subscribe and share it with any friends that you think that may be able to do this.